Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. This is going to be awesome. Welcome in, welcome. I love doing live shows. I'm so glad to be here. If you didn't catch the live, you're watching the replay, welcome in. Comment as though you were watching it live. Just, this is great. It's a portable live at this point for you. So you can watch it whenever, wherever. And, it's kind of half and half which ones of these get posted and which don't. Definitely would encourage you to make the live ones when you can, because of the giveaways we do sometimes and the breaking news and all that good stuff. So, but even if you're just watching the replay, welcome in. Kyle, welcome into the live. WHHS Entertainment, welcome in. And thank you so much for sending that turntable. That's crazy. A handful of people. Kyle, I think you didn't you send me a turntable as well? Couple of people have sent me record players. I'm just like, what the heck? My SLDL1 was a gift from a viewer. I never, ever, 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 ever would have imagined a viewer just sending in a record player. That's crazy. This hair, dude. Every day is a bad hair day for me. Hey, George, Old Radios, welcome in. We're going to have some fun tonight. Mostly just want to do whatever you guys want to do. Yeah, you sent me the singer, Kyle. That was crazy. So the review of what is it? I was just talking about it. The one that was just sent in. Not when I say Galaxy, it's not Gemini. I think it's a late 90s Gemini. And that is going to be this weekend's show. So cat's out of the bag. If you make the lives, you get a little sneak peek. So there you go. That's going to be tomorrow's show. I haven't filmed it. Haven't done anything. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Absolutely. All right. So what is everybody up to? What are we working on? What's the fun projects? I always have fun projects to get to do when I'm done with the not so fun projects and stuff like that. Kyle bought a 70s General Electric record player. That's awesome. Oh, WHH, you sent the Hungarian records. Well, thank you very much for that too. Somebody sent the Gemini. Yeah, those Hungarian records are so cool. In fact, they're right there. They are right there, and I'm very excited to share those and play some. Old Radio saw the 8mm. So here's the thing, Old Radios. I don't know if the projector and the film videos I did a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, and they were members only videos. So I've wanted to wait a time because I didn't want to devalue the investment that people had made in that program. And I have to do something about this. Calic is driving me crazy. I didn't want to devalue the membership program, so I decided to wait for a period of time, and I've been sort of sprinkling in. But we've got dozens of shows that haven't been seen. And yes, I went through this film phase. I still have all this stuff. I haven't got rid of any of it. Stay tuned because we may or may not get into 16mm. And I may or may not, kind of be stuck at a certain level with that. But it's been a blast kind of relearning film and all that stuff. Very, very cool. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. Absolutely. Yes. Oh, cool, Kyle. Orange and white. That's a good color combo. Very cool. George says, I'm still going through my recently found suitcase full of records. Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about that. Which I swear I'd sold years ago. That's got to be exciting, like rediscovering something that you thought you had sold. Now, I am way past the phase that I enjoyed early on this channel, where we happen to have a lot of inherited boxes from friends and family in our house in the basement. Because if I did I think I did a video early on in the channel called crate digging in your own basement, which was crazy because I literally came across a box of records and filmed it. It's a glorious handheld video on a cell phone, like an old Android phone. But it was cool just to see, what the family had collected. And it was a wide range of stuff. I mean, there was a whole gamut of genres of music and all that kind of stuff. And it was crazy discovering that. But we have finally gone through all of that stuff. It's all been sorted. It's all been cataloged. And I'm not going to find any new undiscovered boxes of records. Now I say that, maybe I will. Hopefully that happens. That would be cool. I just don't think it would happen. But before we moved to Florida, we did a very a good job of sort of filtering the things that we really needed to hold on to and those that we didn't. So we donated a lot, we sold a lot, and that went for the record players and not really the records as much, maybe a little bit, but we did get some records into the hands of some new people, but at the same time built up more in terms of record players since we've been down here and records. So yeah. And speaking of records, I'll tell you in a little bit kind of what I'm looking for. I'll tell you where I'm at in the Beatles collecting project, which is I'm still enjoying the Beatles stuff. I've really tried hard to lay off the Beatles. Like I get super obsessive, if you can't tell by now. So I get super obsessive, and I'm just going. I think I'm 3.5 months in on the Beatles thing right now. I mean, it's intense, and I'm researching, I'm watching, I'm learning, listening, obviously a ton. I've recalibrated what I consider my favorites. I've learned a lot from you guys and from other videos and from other channels. So it's been a blast. So I'll tell you kind of where I'm at. I still don't have everything, which you may be saying 3 months, what's taking so long? And I say that as a joke because I'm a lifetime of collecting. You couldn't have it all. But I don't want to have, I'm not going to be like having 14 versions of Abbey Road, every pressing, every iteration, good, bad, and otherwise from every country. I don't want to do that. That's not the kind of bulk collecting I'm into. But I would like to have one of every album. I would like to have one copy. And at this point, I'm not even saying they all have to be vinyl. They all have to be CD. They all have to be tape, whatever. I don't need one of each on each format. I don't even do that for the Patsy Cline stuff or the Glenn Miller stuff. So for me personally, and this kind of is just my mindset when it comes to collecting overall, is I kind of like to have one of everything. Now that may sound like, oh, that sounds like a lot. You're saying you want one of everything, but not necessarily one of every single item, but of every type. So for instance, for Glenn Miller collecting as an example, I wanted one of the 78s and just to have, an actual original Glenn Miller 78. Then I found out that there were 2 or 3 main versions. You had the Black Label Victors, you had the Bluebirds, and all of that stuff. And if you really dig deep, you have the Biltmore, which is the bootleg Glenn Miller. You have the Columbia, you have the Brunswick from the first band, the band that didn't make it, Glenn Miller 1.0, as it were. So I kind of want to have I'd like to have something, and I do now, from the Glenn Miller original band, something from the Bluebird era, something from, so, I don't need hundreds of records. I don't need every one they made, but I would like to have kind of one from each main era to say, yeah, I've got an original Bluebird. I've got a Victor. I've got a Columbia, which I don't have a Columbia. I've got a Columbia offshoot. It's like, I forget exactly what it is. I think it's like the vocal group split off on its own. And then one of the big ones for Glenn Miller, and that was a gift, I think, one of you guys in the audience, maybe here right now, but I really wanted to get, in fact, WHHS, I think this was you. I had really wanted to get my hands on a V-disc, one of the V-discs, the Glenn Miller V-discs. And I was gifted one, and I have one now, and I don't feel the need to bulk up and get every Glenn Miller V-disc. I'm very thankful, and I'm enjoying the one that I have, but I don't need everything. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? And even with that mindset, I still have so much. And the Patsy Cline stuff, I do have all of the albums, and I do have some duplicates, but at the same time, there are certain things I have on CD, or I only have it on tape, or I only have it on vinyl. And with the Beatles, it's going to be the same thing. And, on brand for me, I will become obsessed with something new and move on and still enjoy my Beatles stuff. But the process, it's the hunt. It's the thrill of the hunt. It's the bulking up of the collection. It's and I love that aspect of physical media. But you know what I mean? There's a bit of obsession in any collector, I think, You have to be a little nutty to want, you know what I mean? Versus just, downloading it and having that. So I've come a long way from a year ago feeling that the Beatles, I was a greatest hits only fan and I needed just that one album. Now some of my very favorite songs aren't on the #1 Beatles album. So yeah, there you go. Okay, but I digress. So old radios, I now have 2,150 records cataloged on Discog. Wow. I don't think I'd be diligent enough. Vinyl Moon sent me and by the way, I told the guy that I wanted to show this off in that Vinyl Moon video I did. So I'm doing it here. I'm doing it in the live. So here I am doing that. I had said I wanted to show this off just because it's so cool. And I forgot to do it in that video. But one thing that he sent to me a while back, I think it was him. Now I'm doubting myself. Was it him? Anyway, I was sent these vinyl notes, which are genius. I think it was Vinyl Moon did this. Sent me these vinyl notes where it's like a notepad, and you put on there artist, album, the year it was released, and then you can basically make notes saying this. My favorite track is this. Track number 4 is scratches. I don't like this version of that. The vocal at this point in this time. Basically, they're notes for yourself, so that you can make like a little notebook of it and say, as you're listening, you're having that. I'm removing myself from the outside world moment. Being, immersed in my music, you can look at your notes and say, oh yeah, I forgot I really like that song or whatever. I don't even have the discipline enough to do that for myself. So the idea that you can do it for Discogs, very impressive. Kyle says, sent you a friend request on Tyke Talk. I'm not sure I know what that is. Kyle says, sent you video on my sound design. I've got a sound design as well. WHHS says, I need to catalog all of my record collection. It feels like I have hundreds. That's crazy, man. That's in a good way. That's really cool. George says, I discovered that I have several South Korean bootleg albums. And the Taedo label, I discovered several 12-inch singles from the disco era. By the way, I listened to this album for the first time. I bought this a while ago, and I just listened to it this week. Fantastic album. It's her third album. I think 64 or 5. It doesn't have Do You Know the Way to San Jose, but that being said, it's a great album. All right, hold on. I'm actually looking for something besides that. Bootleg Taedo. Yeah, this is my Beatles bootleg. It's a mess of a front cover. I mean, that's rough. But yeah, Taedo. Some people are like, that's not a bootleg. But Andrew from Parallelogram Auctions, am I saying that right? I asked him, I said, is this considered bootleg? He's like, well, they didn't pay their royalties. So yes, it becomes a bootleg at that point. And I stumbled upon this at an antique store down in Lakeland. And I did film all this. You can see me discovering it and then going back for it. And it was like $8 or $9. And I didn't buy it. And then I came home and I had reverse buyer's remorse. I'm like, I should just go pick that up. That's cool. And I did. And I'm glad I did. Yeah, South Korean, exactly. Old radios, majority of my 45s, I'm still going through and listening. 45s are cool. I've been trying to listen to more of my 45s. I don't have a good way of looking. I have them categorized. In fact, I'll show you. I don't have a ton of 45s. Ugh. So here's one of my 45 boxes. And as you can see, I've got them. I need to get real tabs because I've got these junky paper. They're file folders that I basically ripped into strips and then made these file tabs. I need to get the white plastic ones. I've been looking at that. But they're just broken into, groups like genres, just like my other records. And even looking at this, it's kind of hard to know what's all in there. But I've been trying to dig a little bit deeper into that. Those are some of the 45s. I need, as a whole, to kind of revamp my labeling system. It's definitely on the to-do list. big box of duplicates. Yeah, I don't like having duplicates for no reason. So I try to find them new homes. That was me. I did give you the VDisc. WHHS. Thank you so much. I treasure that thing. In fact, my friend Fardamark, I really got him interested in the VDisc too, based on that, and he ended up getting. I learned something about the VDiscs. And by the way, one of the coolest things I saw when I was at Kurt Knox Auctions over in Houston, used to be down in Houston, now it's over. It's kind of up in Houston from where I am. He has an actual VDisc shipping box, cardboard shipping box for VDiscs, which was amazing to see. And I think I got to touch it too. It was crazy. But what was interesting is some of the VDiscs were made by RCA and some were made by Columbia. And I forget which was which, but one of them made them in shellac and one of them made them in vinylite. And the vinylite ones are brittle. So I know people that have lost them in shipping due to them being snapped. So I'm very thankful for I think I've got one of the vinylite ones, which is great. I also got a well-known, we have a well-worn Beatles album saved for you. Oh, send me. If you guys have any Beatles stuff, please send it, or anything cool. I love to see that. I've got some Beatles gifts. I got one of the two Red Album 8 tracks was sent to me by a viewer. Another viewer has said he wants to send me, I think it's Anthology 1, which would be great. I'll give you my Beatles wish list in a little bit. Obviously, I super appreciate anything you guys can bless the channel with. Definitely give you the kudos, the shout outs, all that stuff. There's so many generous people on here that have sent in so many things. It's just, it's so exciting. It's so fun. I love it. Viewer mail is the most exciting thing in the world to me. So that'll be really cool. Old Radio's cataloging my Beatles 45s. Tim Allen in the house. Awesome. Beatles never did a bad song, in my opinion. That's what I'm learning. And like my dad told me, there's never a repeat. Like they never did the same song twice, you know? Old Radios, I'm listening to my unfamiliar 45s, making sure if I want to keep or sell. XM Virus 202 says, how many record players and turntables do I own? It fluctuates. There is a lot. There's an influx of turntables that are product samples that we review. And once they are reviewed, some are retained, some are sold, some are given. I don't usually do the loaner thing. A lot of companies want to do product loaners, and I don't like doing that because there's a huge liability if they send me something and they still own it, and then it gets damaged in shipping. And yes, this has happened. I don't want the onus to be on me. You know what I mean? So I try to avoid that. That being said, we still have a healthy throughput of turntables and more on the way. Working with some new companies too. So I'm excited to demo some new things. So there's always more than I need in use. Like the ones I use on a daily basis, 3. Somebody put 4 and I had 4 on the brain. So I've got my daily drivers. 3 of them are my Technics SLB5 changer, and I'm running the Grado Gold with the an upgraded head assembly thing. Sounds fantastic. That's running through a Fozzy Audio Box X4 tube. It's a hybrid tube and transistor phono preamp. I'm running the Technics SLB BD22, which is 1987 era belt drive turntable. It's very sleek. It's low. It's got a broken, missing dust cover, and it's got. I bought it for $40. It's got a snapped tone arm that was re-glued on there. It was actually put on with that stuff that you mix the two chemicals and it sets. But it was recalibrated and adjusted by a jeweler, so I trust that it's put on there right. Actually, it works fantastic. That being said, I sometimes do feel like I have minor issues with the alignment when I get to the inner grooves. I'm still trying to decide and I've replaced the cartridge because I thought it was a bad cartridge. I've replaced the preamp that I was using. I was using the IFI Zen phono preamp, their high-end one. And I don't know if the preamp has an issue because I was getting some buzz, not buzzing, like a semblance issue. Just kind of it just wasn't crisp like it should be. The alignment looked okay. It's a P mount cartridge, so there's not a lot of alignment you can do. So either the tone arm's on there right or not. So this week I replaced the preamp with the IFI Zen Air, which is their low end one. Same exact thing, but it's like got a couple less options and it's plastic instead of metal. I think that solved the issue. So I may have a problem, or I may have had a static buildup or something with my Zen. So yeah, I've got that guy down here. This position, my right-hand side, this I've been trading at between the SLBD22 and my Technics SLD1 direct drive linear. And then up here is my Pioneer PLX 500, which is the bottom of the range for their sort of DJ turntables. This does have a Logic controller that'll plug into like a digital DJ system. And I know they're coming out with a new turntable that's amazing. This is their $360-ish turntable. I bought this to replace my Technics XL1. No, Technics LP120X USB. This is also a USB turntable. It's made by the same company. It's made by Handpin. It's good. It's got a little platter wobble, like a hair more than I want, a hair more than I feel comfortable with. Cartridge, I'm running a Sumiko Black Pearl on there, built-in preamp. And so, yeah, those are my 3 daily drivers right now. Meant to say TikTok. I don't check the messages on TikTok, Kyle, as much as I'd like to. I use TikTok mostly as a vehicle to drive traffic to YouTube and to introduce people to the channel. Unfortunately, there's a staggering siloing effect between social media channels where TikTok people just don't come to YouTube and vice versa. It's very, very strange. I'm way behind on comments. Going back here. Hold on. Today I was researching the different versions of Rubber Soul, by the way. I did get a copy of Rubber Soul on CD. I got the 1988 issue, and I understand the first 4 CDs in 87 had the problem where they were using a stereo tape deck to master or to play mono tapes, and there was this virtual azimuth problem. So people don't like the first 4 CDs from 1987. This was some of the second group where they'd fix that. But anyway, about the differences between the US version and the UK version, amazing. Like 6 songs were different. And I definitely like the UK version. That's kind of what I'm going for, is collecting all of the original UK albums. I did pick up at that record show a couple weekends ago, the Beatles at the BBC Volume 1, the 2-disc set. Gunmetal Guy USA, welcome in. Vinyl Rage, welcome in. Anybody that I haven't greeted yet, XM Virus 202, welcome in. On the Beatles, I deliberately have 2 copies of Abbey Road. One is an original 69 pressing, $1 at Guest Room Records in Oklahoma City, and the 2019 Giles Martin remix. I have the 2019 version. I own more record players than anyone here. What's the number, old radios? Tim Allen says, FYI, pirated albums, bootlegs, and unauthorized albums are all different things. Copyright law vary in different countries, and all of those albums were totally legal there and not bootlegs there. And that's an interesting topic. Actually, I know a bit about from another artist that I collect. I'm not going to go into it. There's some disagreement about how, like, how do I want to say this? There is some conversation about what countries' laws in terms of copyright impact other countries and stuff. It's very interesting. Music Talk with John. Welcome in. Hello from Oldsmar. It's good to see you for a few seconds at the Orlando Record Show. Hey, man. Yeah, I remember running into you. It was great to see you. We were talking about how it's awkward to film it at record shows. You have to tell me what you ended up getting. Kyle owns 12 record players. That's a lot. Old Radio says I own 12, maybe more cylinder players alone. Wow. I'm staying away from cylinder. There's some stuff I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to do cylinder. I had thought about it early on, but no, I'm not going to do cylinder. I'm not going to do DCC. I'm not going to do L cassette. I'm not going to do Laserdisc. I wasn't going to do 8-track, but I'll let you guys talk me into it, which I'm glad for. It was a fun thing. I do listen to my 8-tracks, the ones that I still have. The interesting thing about the 2019 remix is my understanding is that they were specifically mixed to sound to the newbie like me coming into, although I'm not a first-time Beatles fan. I did go through a phase in the 90s, like I've said before. But anyway, and I have had Beatles records actually in the past too. My dad gave me a bunch. And I had the White Album on, I had all these things. I sold them off years and years ago. Did I sell them off? Maybe I have those in a box somewhere too. Because I wouldn't. If my dad just gave me some records, because there was Elvis in there too, I wouldn't have sold those off. Maybe I do have more in a box that I don't know. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so the 2019 mix was specifically designed for those albums to sound modern to somebody listening to the radio. Because I remember it said somewhere they wanted it to be that if you were just listening to a mix radio station and they play a modern artist and then they play some Beatles song, they don't want it to sound painfully different in terms of the mixing. If it's split track or something, they wanted it to be the mix to sound modern. And I think I'm okay with that because I'm kind of in the phase where I'm hearing things for the first time, some stuff. And so my preference, it is the first version you hear is your favorite usually. If you read the book first before you see the movie, you usually like the book. If you see the movie first before you read the book, you like the movie, kind of a thing. So I'm, developing my favorites, which may or may not be the right ones, the right opinions to have. Do I have enough room for your turntables? Never. That's how you know you have too many, when you never have enough room. George Price, only one turntable for me. That's all you need. What do you have again, George? I know you've told me. Kyle says, my favorite is always my Audio Technica, which you suggested, and it's been the best record player. That's great. Picked up a Kenwood KD500 Granite, the Sumiko Premier tone arm, $30 at a flea market. That's cool. You have to let me know how that goes. That sounds awesome. Sound Design portable battery operated 8-track players, orange. I actually happen to have my portable 8-track player down here. It's my 74 Dynamite TNT Panasonic National. Perfectly functional. Head has very little wear. Runs on C-cell batteries. A little bit of battery corrosion, but I would too if I was 50 years old. Getting close enough to that. Well, maybe I do have some battery corrosion. It works fantastic. In fact, let's just test it out right now. Let's grab an 8-track. In fact, let's grab the Beatles. That ought to wake up the copyright people. All right. I love these things. It's got the plunger to change tracks. There's no solenoid for moving the head up and down. Little Red Album action. Takes a second to come up to speed. The man I used to be. What he wants to see. That's about enough of that. I could listen to it all day, but you know how it is. At first, it was a little slow coming up speed. It's just older batteries, I think, are in this thing. Actually, governor and everything is in good shape. I did have one problem. These are kind of known for this. So if you see in here this white wheel up here, this is a stabilizer for the tape itself. And it's made of white nylon, I think it is. It's designed to rest right in, what am I doing? I'm putting the thing at the microphone. It's designed to rest right in here on an 8-track tape, just to hold it in position. And mine cracked, and they're just notorious for doing that. There's probably a 3D printed file of that. But instead of doing that, I took some fabric tape and just wrapped it up because it cracked right down the middle. It split evenly. And I just wrapped it in tape and it works fine. Besides that, it is original. I paid like $15 for it. Those things can go for hundreds. So yeah, portable 8-track players. Very, very cool. I like some of the other ones that are out there as well. It actually sounds really good. We're just coming. It hadn't been played in weeks. Thank you all for joining me, by the way. I appreciate you being in here. Any question you want to ask, feel free to do so. Eventually, I'll get to it. If I happen to miss it, just put it in there again. Definitely non-intentional if I do. It's the comment system on this side is kind of glitchy. It keeps like jumping around and it's hard to keep track of. TikTok users usually like more short content. Exactly. And that's why YouTube, aka Google, is really pushing. I just turned on my Google Home system. But anyway, they like just saw it light up. The shorts. They've been pushing the YouTube Shorts platform so much, which is it's fine. And we do YouTube Shorts as well. Hopefully you've seen that pop up in your feed. Try to do a 1-to-1 for everything we do on Shorts versus TikTok. But you're right. It's a different thing. YouTube is typically about relationships that creators can build with their audience. And so it's more relational. The long form is anyway. Whereas short form content, there's not really a loyalty people have to certain creators as much as just flipping through and the algorithm honing in on what they've been watching more of and honing away from what they've been watching less of. Tim Allen says, growing up in the U.S. in the 60s and 70s, I prefer the U.S. version of Rubber Soul because I grew up with it. And that makes sense. I've heard a lot of people say that. Nikki, welcome in from Canada. WHHS Entertainment. I would like to get my wind-up phonograph up and running again. Not only does one of its two brakes need replacing. Mine needed that too. But the motor is spinning too fast. It needs new grease. That's a heck of a project. Ella says, finally got my first turntable Friday. I think I underestimated the space they take up. They can, and they need speakers and need preamps, and then yeah, pretty soon you got this whole setup. George says, I have 2 copies of the original 69 Abbey Road. Album is throttled sticks in some areas on the original. Interesting. George says a 2017 Newmark turntable USB. Oh, yeah, with the Groove Tool. That's great. That's awesome. The Groove Tool cracks me up because people that don't know any better freak out when they see the ones with the red stylus housing and think it's a ceramic one. It's obviously a magnetic. Does yours actually say Groove Tool on the top? Old radios, does it have a speed control screw? Sounds like a governor issue. Oh, you guys when you were talking about a governor, I thought you were talking about my 8-track player. That's how far behind I am. You were talking about the governor on the phonograph. Are you using StreamYard? No, I have not. I've thought about doing that and having somebody come on. I don't know. I must have like a Heinemann motor. Yep, very common motor. Final Rage, do you have a Discord server? I do not. I don't like Discord. I've done it a couple of times as a member of somebody else's. It's not. There's so many things out there. I don't need another social media. I don't need another thing. Not that, and I know for some people that like it, that's fine. If you like it, that's great. I'm glad for that. Just for me personally, I would rather see myself backing away from being involved in so many things. I want less things to log into in my life. I want less screen time. The buck stops here. Long form versus short form is where we bridge the gap. Yeah, but getting your short form people to long form is tricky. Now, I know some creators are good at doing that. It is a tricky thing, though, getting your short form people to say, hey, I want to see more of this. Come on over. And it's really tricky to get TikTok people to come over to YouTube. And they don't like, either of the platforms don't like you to do that anyway. They don't want to lose because they're competitors. GT lettering. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Nikki says, what kind of turntable would you suggest for someone on a budget but wants to upgrade from a suitcase player? Nikki, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. The next upgrade from a suitcase player, indicating that you want to go for this, you want to enjoy the sound of records. You don't want to just have the novelty of records. You really want it to sound good. The next step up is to go from a suitcase record player to a turntable of sorts. And the one that I always like to recommend is the Audio-Technica LP60 series. Now, vintage LP60s can be had for $40, $50, $60. And mine I got used for $40. It's got a scratch dust cover, but if you're just starting out, it doesn't matter. Those are great because they've got a good cartridge, a magnetic cartridge. The technology is completely different. Well, not completely. The technology is upgraded considerably from a suitcase player. It generates great sound. It's got a built-in preamp, but you do need powered speakers or a stereo system to plug it into. It doesn't have its own. You would be surprised how many people don't. They buy a turntable and expecting the sound. They'll always say, I can hear this faint sound, because you can put a needle on a record with nothing connected to it and hear sound off it, which is amazing. Remember when my son heard that for the first time, he's like, is there really sound coming out that with no speakers connected? But in order to have the sound come out, you need speakers. So realize there's an extra investment there. Now, there are some decent all-in-one, despite what other creators may be saying out there and recently released videos, but I digress. There are some all-in-one units that make use of magnetic phono cartridges that sound good, have good built-in speakers. And so you may look at something like a Victrola Revolution Go. That's a battery-operated portable record player with a fantastic, bassy, booming, loud speaker and a magnetic phono cartridge, and it is a beautiful thing. It's also a fully functional turntable, meaning that you can connect it to speakers. So a couple different ideas for you there. So I would look used. If you're looking vintage, that was somebody else asked that question. That's another road to go to. Just realize if you go vintage, and you can find good deals there, absolutely. I'm running two of these, or two out of three turntables right here are vintage. You're going to need an external preamp, so that's another thing to consider. You can buy cheap phono preamps for like $14 to $20 on Amazon that'll get the job done. I need to do another show. I think I've done one before a while ago, explaining what phono preamps are for. People are still confused, and rightfully so, because if you don't know, like preamp, why do you need preamp then an amp? Why not just have one? Doesn't make sense to some people. Yeah, LP60s are definitely good. The LP60X series is the newer version of the last 5 years or so. They have a little bit gentler descend on the tone arm. One of the complaints of the original LP60 was that when you release it, it dropped kind of abruptly. That being said, you can re-lubricate that. I've added damping fluid to my LP3. May it rest in peace. I'm no longer with my LP3. I never thought I'd get rid of that thing, but I did move on from my LP3. I did. I never thought I would. I had that thing. That was a great turntable, by the way. If you want the best of an LP120 and the best of an LP60 combined, look no further than the LP3. Gosh, that's a great turntable. You can upgrade the cartridge. Oh, it's a fantastic unit. One group that I discovered years ago is called Ride the River. I have 3 of their 45s on Advantage and Complete Records label. Found no other of their releases. Very interesting. I'll check that out. Like my General Electric, just bought it. It's vintage, but it works good. So thank you, everybody, for joining it, by the way. I wanted to And keep the comments coming. I love you guys talking to each other, and then any questions, I'll get back to them in a minute. So what are we up to here? So Record-ology Central has been bustling, as it always seems to be. Put out a lot of content, especially earlier in the week. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed that. I'm always towing the line on, staying. I want the show to be sort of front of mind for people appropriately. I don't want to bombard people with too much content. There are some daily content creators that I enjoy that I'm just like, dude, I don't have time for a daily video. But at the same time, sometimes I'm like, man, I don't want to wait a week for another video, for the weekly content creators. Like Techmoan, could do a daily one and I'd figure out a way to watch it. I've enjoyed his last few videos, but I've enjoyed all his videos. Almost every single video he does is just great YouTube. So been kind of balancing that. I don't want to put out too much, and I also don't want people to forget about us throughout the week. So we've been doing some of the posts. I do the first listen, first spin of the day stuff. Hopefully people enjoy that. Like I said, working with some new companies, got some new things coming. Sorry, my bird in the other room has decided that he needs to bang his beak on the cage. He's hungry for attention, I guess. So I've got the Gemini turntable that's coming tomorrow. That'll be tomorrow's show. I've got some other turntables that are coming, some accessory things, some ancillary items, some other media players, some media to share, some just cool ideas, some places to go, some on the road stuff. So there's always things in the hopper. There's a few companies that we've worked with in the past that are dormant right now. Some that are cycling down, some that are cycling up. Crosley has been very, very quiet lately. I don't know why. They have some new things coming out. They have it's got to be like a 5th generation cruiser where they've done some significant upgrades apparently to the sound quality and things. So I'm curious about that because that's still a relevant product. And even though it does not represent everything that they do by any means, people that just say, "Oh, it's a Crosley." It's a Kleenex. Kleenex is a tissue. Tissue is a Kleenex. And people just say, "Oh, a Crosley is is what they make. They make a Crosley." There's a lot of misinformation there, and there's a lot of work to do in that. So I do hope we can get our hands on some new stuff. They've got some cool things coming out. It's been pretty slow and pretty quiet over there. Audio Technica, there's definitely some cool things that they've been doing that I want to be a part of. And so, yeah. This bird is just going nuts in the other room. If I have to leave for a minute to go, I might have to bring him in here. Sometimes he just wants attention so bad. And he gets plenty. That's the thing about it. And then I want to talk to you about my Beatles collecting and where I'm at with that in just a minute here. But let me get caught up. General Electric vintage. That's cool. Ella, I have all the Beatles albums I want on CD already. Thoughts on the one LP with the greatest hits. So that's where a year ago, that was the one thing I had. I have it on CD actually, because I do collect CDs as much as vinyl. And I know it's not the most popular opinion to have, but I love compact discs. Anyway, it's a great starting point. It is a greatest hits album of sorts. But as I've delved deeper, I've learned that some of my very favorite songs are not on there. WHHS does have Black on it, but I can't say. Oh, you guys talk amongst each other. My Gerard 404 is a gem. I had a Gerard, but I passed up on. I did the show. We did a little bit of work, and it was a credenza system, and I sent that along, sold it to somebody who was wanting to do that project. Tony, oh, you missed me earlier. I was just saying thank you so much. That is crazy, man. Thank you so very much. It is sitting untouched in the studio as I speak, and I've purposely. It's going to be tomorrow's show, so I am going to. I haven't done anything to it. I got your letter, and I'm just very, very, very grateful. I did do a short. I don't know if you saw the short where I just kind of gave you a shout out and just said thank you for it. Showed it briefly, but that is tomorrow's show. So I'm going to do the full review, and I cannot wait. We'll do a direct feed sound test. We'll get it up and running if it's not already, and I'm very, very excited for that. So thank you. And again, like I was saying earlier, I can't believe anybody would send me a record player. It's just crazy. So thank you very, very much. It's so kind of you. And I know that's expensive to ship, and I'm just blown away. So thank you. Cannot wait to do that show. So yes, indeed, do have it. It is next up. I wanted to do that show right away. I had a couple things I had to get out. If you guys like compact discs, I've got a couple of unique. Just when I think that they won't come out with a CD player that can do anything else, I am going to be reviewing some CD players probably midweek. Again, you come to the live, you get the inside scoop. That may be the midweek main show. We'll see. And they're cool because they record from CD onto SD card. The actual portable CD player, 2 models, 2 versions that record from disc to solid state, which is cool. Got my old General Electric kids record player for $20 at an antique show or antique store. Going antiquing is my favorite. Oh, I love antiquing so very, very much. All kinds of vintage record 8-track players. Oh, that's crazy. That's so much fun. Have you ever owned a CED video disc player? I have not. It was before my time in terms of experiencing it. I do come across the people will have these collections of like 20 movies. And I know of the technology. It's crazy. I can't believe it can happen. It's very cool. Probably not a format I'm going to get into just because I need another format, like I need another hole in the head. But they are very cool. But who knows? It could happen. Would it help? If I missed a comment, if I misinterpreted something, my apologies. CD transports are way back in terms of like people are buying like CD transports again. I figured the audio files never stopped. Like all the formats of recording media. VHD is better than CED. All that stuff, dude, is so cool. So okay. So update on the Beatles collection. So the last video, and I kind of want to wait until I get these next albums before I do another update, another video update. But I am down to only needing 4 albums. And again, I'm collecting the UK albums. They're not all on vinyl. They're not all on CD. They're not all on tape. They're kind of a combination of the 3. I'm not going to collect all the singles. I do have a couple handfuls of singles now, which are cool. I've also kind of made the common offshoot towards John Lennon. And I love John Lennon music. I do have Double Fantasy. I did pick that up. I got a great deal on it. I got it for like $1 at East West Records, one of my favorite Orlando area record shops. And I'm down to 4 albums I need, and I will have it completed, the first round collection. I need Please Please Me, recorded in a day, I understand, which is amazing. I had that CD in the 90s, and I must have sold it. What was I doing? I needed money or something, and I was like, sold that thing. I was a teenager that needed cash. It just happened. So I had 2 of these I had and need to get again. So I need Please Please Me. I need to get Beatles for Sale, which did they do? That was one of the 87 releases? It must have been. So I need to get Beatles for Sale. I need to get Magical Mystery Tour. I love that album. And I need to get Revolver. And then I will have them all. I have every other one. I am not looking for the US albums. If I come across them for killer deals, I'll pick them up. So I don't have the US Capitol albums. I don't think I have any US Capitol albums at this point. Even my Revolver is the UK version, like I was saying earlier. I don't have the Capitol Revolver. And again, if I come across it, it's a good deal. I might pick it up. But if I am going to choose, I'm going the UK route. VHD would be hard to get in the US. I also have a rare FM radio from the 50s, tube style with a rare Zenith in its portable FM radio. That's cool. South American pressing of Please Please Me. That's cool. I would love to come across some unique and rare pressings. Beatles mono or stereo. Oh man, if I could just go spend money that I don't have, I would totally go for. I'd take both. I mean, I prefer stereo, and I know that that's kind of sacrilegious to a lot of Beatles fans, but I like the stereo. I think it adds a dynamic. And split track is kind of weird when the vocals are all in one channel and the music is all in the other. I know that was common with other groups of that era. It's sort of a technical artifact of the era. The Mamas and the Papas did that a lot, but even that, it's fun. I like it. I don't know. I like the stereo stuff. And then the modern stereo mixes are great. Absolutely great. And I know that the mono is sort of the gold standard, the most expensive version, but that people want to get. So who knows? That's just where I'm at now. You know what I mean? And I don't know where my interest will lie. Will I continue to learn more and want to grow the collection and go towards the mono route? At this moment in time, I'm happy with stereo. I like stereo. And I'm not like even trying just to up my copy of Rubber Soul has some scratches on it, which totally kills me because I came across the same CD later in that show for cheaper that was in mint condition. But I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not just going to bulk up on repeats. If the first one plays, which it does, I'm not going to get another one just to get one. But we'll see. I mean, if I become interested in it more so down the road, maybe I will. I consume a lot of Beatles music and Apple Music, and Beatles on Apple Music is incredible with a good pair of headphones. In fact, I've been using, I got these right by my right-hand side. These are the M80s from Own Audio or One Audio. They're an open back, so they've got the wide sound staging. These bad boys are comfy, padded everything. They've got detachable cables. You can do 1/4 inch on the one side or 1/8 inch over here. They're studio monitors. In fact, these are advertised as studio monitors. And these are my bad boys to listen when I really want to like deep dive on music, or my wife is sick of me blasting stuff on my speakers and it's time to be quiet. So what I'll do is really study that Apple Music, because the Apple mixes are Dolby Atmos. It's spatial Dolby Atmos on these with a hardwire connection. You just can't beat it. You can't beat the sound, not just on Beatles stuff, but I consume a lot of Beatles on streaming, and people will get after streaming. Oh, streaming! It's now lossless. Streaming is now lost. I don't know as much about Spotify, but I understand they're kind of, although they're behind Apple, they're kind of bringing up the rear end of trying to get caught up. But yeah, Dolby Atmos surround, lossless masters. Stuff is usually 96K, 24-bit at minimum, and I think it has to be for Atmos anyway. So that's how I'm consuming a lot of Beatles music, and in there I can listen to everything, every mono, stereo, you name it. Beatles for sale on CD, old radios. That's cool. I need to find that. So yeah, Beatles for sale. I need Please Please Me, Magical Mystery, and Revolver. And I had Revolver. I had Please Please Me back in the 90s, but I don't anymore. I'll feel like I'm kind of at a, not done necessarily, but I'll be at a level of, okay, at first I thought all I wanted was the greatest hits, the Red and Blue albums. People are like, you're going to want the albums. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that'll be enough. Then I dug more deep and I was like, yeah, you're right. I want all the albums too. And there's not too many out there. It's not like collecting Peggy Lee has been harder and more time consuming actually, because there was like 30 albums. Somebody that had, a career that spanned decades. Whereas the Beatles was a short career, brilliant one. And, now you can go down the road of all the individual, offshoot independent stuff and all the variations and things. But if you want just the core, and that's kind of what I'm looking for at this point, that seems to be floating my boat. And that's what I need to complete that. Tim Allen, I have been using a 3D Blu-ray player as a CD player. The DAC in it sounds so much better than any CD player I've ever owned. And Tim, you wouldn't be wrong, because the DAC is the most important thing when listening to a CD player. And I got rid of it a few years ago. It was featured on the channel quite a bit for a while. This would have been about 2018, 19-ish. And I had this Sony. Oh gosh, it's been so long since I even thought about this thing. It was huge. It was the size of a 5-disc changer, and in fact, it was deeper than my 5-disc changer at the time. And it was a single disc thing. It was a DVD player. It was one of Sony's first DVD players, but it happened to have a separate assembly for playing CDs and a separate laser, because it's the laser of a red laser is, the CD laser is more beefy than a DVD laser is thinner. Anyway, so there was an amazing DAC that was built into it. One of the best sounding CD players. Had this awesome tray that would slide out. Very cool looking device. Very space consuming, and I wanted to upgrade to a 5-disc changer. But yes, I know some of those video players can do fantastic things, because DVDs alone do 96K audio, and Blu-ray players do a multi-channel even beyond that. So it's just incredible what they can do. And so it may even be doing some upscaling on the audio side as well, which is a cool thought. So I believe it. I think that sounds great. I got MMT Argentinian EP. MMT. Magical Mystery Tour. Okay, thank you. It's not even 10 p.m. yet. I got there. Sorry. I got one Parlophone. And I do have a handful of Parlophone albums. Rarities. That's another one to look out for. Weird Spin says, the new look works. It's very beat. New look works. WHHS, interested in Gilbert and Sullivan recordings? Question mark. Always. Yeah, absolutely. That stuff is cool. When I think of Gilbert and Sullivan, I think of people like quoting, what was that show? There was some show and somebody was Gilbert and Sullivan. Was it Mary Poppins? I think in Mary Poppins Returns, they were joking around about Gilbert and Sullivan. I got monos mainly. Another console record player, regular turntable. Have fond memories, as many of us do, of the consoles. Console player will often be a BSR type, which is I don't think there's anything wrong with a BSR. They're a little bit more harsh. They are a changer, though. They're really cool. You can put on, I had a BSR type of changer before we moved. I ended up donating it, I think, but I upgraded it, put a Shure. I had Shure cartridge. I put a new needle on it. But yeah, they're cool. Buck stops here. I run both mono and stereo carts. I don't have any. I do have a mono cart. In fact, it's right here, and I always bring it up on every live. It's my mono OM78, 2M78, excuse me, by Ortophone, designed to play your 78s. However, my fat thumb snapped the cantilever off, so it needs a new stylus. And it is a true mono cartridge, so yeah, I need this. This is like $120 alone. The actual generator in it is pretty tiny. It's just like the OM5Es. A lot of housing, but not much actual space taken up by the generator. I think that's my only mono cart. Right now I'm running my for playing 78s. I'm still running this setup, and it works just fine. Audibly, to me, I don't hear any difference from the Ortophone, and it's a lot cheaper. This is just a stereo Audio Technica 3600L with a fan steel 78 stylus, excuse me. So the wide groove stylus on a stereo cartridge on this DJ Pioneer head shell. And I swap this out, recalibrate it, reset the counterbalance, and you're good to go. It plays fantastically. In fact, we've done some direct feed audio with it. That's the main reason that I have that set up, is for playing 78s. And yes, I'm using an acrylic platter. Playing 78s is probably, a lot of people would say that's a bad idea. But I do it anyway because it sounds good to my ears. I purchased an Audio-Technica LP3 based on your recommendations. Love it. Sounds so good. Tony, that's great. I'm glad you enjoy it. Love that thing. It's so beautiful. The new Bluetooth ones, I would love to get my hands on it. Audio-Technica is not working as much with content creators as they used to. We did do an Audio-Technica show. I finally got my hands on the LPW50, I think it was, that came out at CES back in 2020 when we went. And it was good. Do you own any Elvis Sun 78s? Oh, man. No, I don't have. Well, I've got I've got some fake ones. Actually, they're right here. No, that's a Mini Cruiser. Here's something I haven't had on the show in a while. This is a Mini Cruiser. 3-inch record player. This one has the ceramic cartridge, but I don't know where. I think it's up there on the shelf. I've got two of the RSD 20. Well, one RSD 2020 and one RSD 2019 with the magnetic cartridge that play 3-inch records. Still a novelty, but it's fun. But the case that goes with it, the matching case, oh, I think it's up there. Dang it. So I've got some 3-inch records that are replica 78s of Sun records. So I do not. And I don't even have any 45s. I do collect 78s. I've got a healthy collection of 78s. In fact, we were just talking earlier, one of the other viewers on here, a couple people on here, have sent me a number of 78s. So collect Glenn Miller, a lot of big band era stuff. My Grail record is Patsy Cline Coral 78. They're only released like 2 or 3 of them before she switched to just regular Decca, because Coral's an imprint of Decca, and eventually went to 45s and vinyl. But there was a short period of time where there was some Coral Patsy Cline 78s. I'll probably never find one in the wild. They're hundreds of dollars. But yeah, absolutely love and adore 78s. And I've got quite a bit. I don't have a huge, crazy collection. I don't have like hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of 78s, but I've got a healthy collection. Mostly big band, mostly Glenn Miller, some country. I've got some very odd things. I've got some miniature children's records. I've got a lot of kids 78s, things like this. In fact, I took a picture of this earlier today. That's why it was front and center. These golden record 78s from the 50s. Look how worn out that is. How frosted the playing surface. This is supposed to be the same color as this, but it was played so much. And as you may know, 78s or 78 RPM was even after popular music, classical music, jazz music in the 50s, it moved on to 45s and LPs and things of that came along in the late 40s. The 78 remained a popular format for children's material up through the 50s and even the early 60s. And there was this weird crossover phase. So that's why there's some Elvis 78s, like you were saying earlier. There's some Patsy Cline 78s for some of those 50s artists that are out there. There's even Beatles 78s, if you can believe it. But I do have a lot of kids 78s of all different sizes. This is a little 5-inch or 6-inch record. Let's see, another one I was listening to today. Let's see. This one's really cool. This was a mail-in record. You collect the receipts and mail it in. It's in shabby condition. All these are sleeved in poly. This is a Musketeer. This is a 7-inch, 78 RPM record. And we featured this on a show a long time ago. It needs to be done again. You can see it's pretty well scratched. So yeah, these would be played on tin phonographs and wind-up toy phonographs or vintage, 100-gram pickups, phonographs, and things. So these and owned by children. So if finding old children's 78s in good condition is a tricky thing, but I think they're fun. They're a blast. They're cheap. These, you can find them in antique stores most of the time. Antique stores, those are the place to find these, and I love them so very much. So I've got a ton of those 50s era ones where they're fun colors. I've got vintage 30s ones of like Raggedy Ann and stuff that look like a HMV record or something, but it just happens to be, a 5-inch record with kids material on them and things of that nature. So a lot of crazy funky things. I've got advertising material. I've got the Durium Chevrolet record. It's a pretty common cardboard record, Durium cardboard. I've got Hit of the Week records. I've got some 78 recorded disc things where people would make recordings for family members, service members that we featured on the show and stuff. So I like that kind of stuff more than like, oh, I'm just going to buy, 78s to listen to music, because I honestly don't use them to listen like, oh, I want to listen to my favorite Glenn Miller song. Let me get out the 78. Not that they can't sound good, especially if you have a decent setup, but that's just not the way I personally consume the music as much. I've also got, these aren't 78s, but it made me think of it. I've also got some transcription records, including some 16-inch records. Those are out in the garage. I really need to go and not have those in the garage, but they're well packed. That they are 16-inch AFRS records that are really cool. They're actually 33 RPM, 16-inch transcriptions. I need to do a show. One of the show ideas that I've been, toying with for a couple of years now is making a modified transcription compatible turntable. And I've tried converting my Audio-Technica LP7 to do it. And I got it to play for like the first third of the record, but I couldn't, it just would not quite fit. It was hard. It was a tough fit as it was. And I'm not going to be buying $1,000 transcription deck. That's not going to be happening. So yes, I do collect 78s. I love them. I do it maybe a little different than others. I have been to Fort Knox, and I filmed 2 lengthy videos. Go check those out. About a year and a half ago, we went down there from Colorado down to Houston. Private tour. Got to spend a couple hours with the nicest guy, and he does the Knox auctions every quarter. In fact, there's always one going on, but there's one open right now where they sell off thousands of rare 78s. And I got to look at I got to see the first sound recordings out of Africa. I got to see some Thomas Edison firsthand stuff. I got to see some Caruso stuff. I got to see metal parts. I got to see a violin, band organ. I got to see phonographs, the likes of which you can't find anywhere else. Like a museum of sound on a large scale. If that intrigues you, if you like 78s, look up Kurt Nauck, Nauct, I think it is, on my channel and watch those videos. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. If you like 78s, you haven't seen those shows yet, go watch those shows. The only cringy thing is me saying, whoa, awesome, over and over again, because he kept having stuff that was just like, oh yeah, this is the president's personal record. It's stuff like that. Just crazy. But yeah, 78s. Sun 78s, not yet. I don't think have I seen any of those in a while? If I found any Sun 78s, I'd probably just pick them up. Run both mono and stereo cards. Stereo is easy. I collect 78s and cylinders, old radios, as George says. I have an original mono pressing of the Capitol release, the Beatles' second album, which I got for a steal, $277. Wow, very cool. Just because the previous owner drew on Lennon's face. Yeah, my Beatles bootleg has that too. Lossless streaming. I'm trying to get an M2 Mac Mini. Yeah, you can do the lossless streaming Apple Music with an Android or an iPhone. And if you want to get the Dolby Atmos, you just need to be hardwired. I don't think you can do Bluetooth. What's the Bluetooth cut? So it has to be Bluetooth 5. And what is the thing? Bluetooth 5. There is a codec within the Bluetooth aptX. I think it's aptX that you can do lossless, but I don't know for sure if Apple supports third-party aptX connections for its Atmos. It'll still be lossless, but I think it won't be aptX. I think in order to, or not, it won't be Atmos. If you want Atmos, where it's the multi-channel, not only surround you, but over you, under you, your head is in the middle of the studio, which is, it's amazing. Which then you can do it on anything, even Beatles, old stuff, whatever. It's like it was recorded yesterday. There's nothing old sounding about it anymore at all. If you've never heard it, it's game changing. It's life changing. It's just, the spatial stuff they're doing is so crazy. The Dolby is. Anyway, you have to be hardwired connection. So what I do is I take my good headphones, I plug them into. Do I have it in here? No, I have a Lightning to mini TRS adapter, which is like $11. It comes with some iPhones and stuff. I plug that in, hardwire it, and listen to it. Otherwise, if I'm listening to, like, I don't listen to records as much on headphones. I don't think vinyl sounds as good on headphones as it does through speakers. Personal opinion. But if I'm doing that, I'm using my headphone amp. I have an IFI headphone amp that I use for that. And then a lot of the components have their own headphone amps built in. My Yamaha deck, built-in headphone amplifier. The Fozzy 2 preamp has a built-in amplifier. My Sony 5-disc changer, no headphone amplifier. The Sound Design 8-track player actually does. That's how I output the audio to my system, because my 8-track player is actually a receiver. So it's got amplified speaker terminals in the back, which I'm not using. Everything in my system is line level. I don't use any amplified receiver setup. It's all line level, powered speakers, and all the amplification is done either at the subwoofer level or at the speaker level. My Fluence AI41s. And what else? My mini disc player has a headphone amplifier. My internet radio / digital tuner has one. And yeah. And then everything else would be running through the separate headphone amp. I've got stuff to listen to. Well, I'm thankful for it. I never thought I would have that much to listen to. So as long as we got electricity hooked up to the house, there will be something to listen to. But even that, I've got battery operated stuff too. So, and hand crank stuff, and that's so cool though. See, if I found something like that, if I found like the Beatles' second album or Beatles 4, whatever they are, the US albums for like $2, $3, $5, I would pick, even if it was beat up, I would pick it up just because that's cool. I want a DDAC. That's cool. Kyle says, some exciting news. I am saving up money to buy a Gibson SG guitar. Guitar of my dreams. Wow, that's cool. You'll have to let me know how that goes. Streaming is good. Get your DACs and cans in order. Yeah, exactly right. Do you have a butcher copy of Yesterday Today? Of the Beatles Yesterday and Today? No, I do not. I know that's a Grail record for collectors, but I do not have one. And if I did come across one, even if it was one of the fake ones, I think that's pretty cool just because it's interesting. I bought this Bluetooth amp thing. It has screw-on terminals. I did upgrade my speaker cables. And I always make fun of people that buy the $100,000 speaker cables. At my level of stuff that I'm doing here, I would still say it's fairly entry level for a lot of people. But my AI41s with a subwoofer, the sound is incredible. It's so good, so good. But I have had a small issue with my AI41s, and I actually think it's my left channel speaker, and that is that the tweeter I'll get a short somehow in the speaker wire, and my tweeter on my left side will cut out. And they're two-way speakers. So there's the woofer, which is a fiberglass woofer, and then the neodymium silk tweeter. And that tweeter cuts out. And I thought it was bad cables because I used to be able to reach back there. And at first I just had like the, cheapo copper speaker wire with the red and black plastic, just very cheap. I don't even know where I got it, if it came with the speakers or if I've had it for, whenever. But didn't really think anything of it because either on or off, the connection's made or it's not. If there's interference, there is. But I'm 3.5 feet between my speakers, 4 feet or whatever it is. So for my setup here, I use a desktop setup. I'm not a big listening station living room, studio setup. I'm a desktop user, and for my use, that was always fine, except I was getting that short or something, and I assumed it was my cabling. Now, I do have proper banana plug terminals on the back of these speakers, so I decided to buy an affordable but quality braided speaker cables with banana plugs to make sure that I had a very solid connection on either end. And it seems to be happening a lot less. It has happened once, and I just unplug it and plug it back in, and that's annoying. I think it's a one-off issue. I don't know why it's happening, but I love the AI-41 sound. They're the best sounding speaker. I got an interesting email from somebody. Oh, by the way, this is weird. Somebody sent me a message through eBay. By the way, if you haven't bought the glow-in-the-dark 45s, I did a print run on Friday to print off a bunch. We had some sales this week. Thank you to everybody who bought one. And we're going to be shutting down the glow-in-the-dark. So if you want the glow-in-the-dark 45 adapter, I don't have any up here right now. Get yours this week because I don't know how much longer that's going to stay open, that sale. But anyway, somebody contacted me. They sent me a message, contact seller message, to ask me a question about a video. It was very weird. But I was just like kind of blown away by that. But what was I talking about? I don't even remember. Oh yeah, somebody sent me a message saying that they wanted to do more speaker reviews. Wanted me to do more speaker reviews. And I've reviewed probably 5 or 6, 7, maybe 8 different powered speakers at this point. And the best of the best of the best are the Fluence AI-41s. That's why I'm using them. They are so crisp and so rich, and they are just wonderful. My only gripes are they take about 3 seconds to start up. So when you start the speaker up and you turn it on, the sound doesn't come out instantly. So usually what I do is I'll play a record, and I'll be like, why can't I hear anything? Oh, I have to turn my speakers on. So I either grab my remote and I press power, or I push the button on the front of the speaker, and it takes about 4 seconds to come on. Here's a little thump, boom. And that's not Bluetooth. That's the hardwire connection. So that can be a little annoying. And then the other thing is that tweeter on the left side cutting in and out a little bit. So yeah, that's my thing on speakers. I've heard some amazing speakers. I think they're 45 watts per channel. I would not mind having the AI-61. I think they are, which push it even a little bit further. But these are great speakers. They're so crisp. They're so crisp. And they're so rich. You don't even need a subwoofer. In fact, I didn't have one for the first year and a half or so. But you add the sub out to the subwoofer, and it's an auditory treat. It's amazing. They got me thinking about it when we talk about the terminals, because I did upgrade those. Bet you would like the music of Harry Nilsson, sometimes nicknamed the American Beatle. Interesting. I never heard him described that way. When I think of Harry Nilsson, I think of the Puppy Dog song, which I really like. Suppa Prince, welcome in, my friend. Old radios. I got a 1946 Magnavox console radio for 78. It's very nice. Hello, hello. If I haven't said hello to you guys yet, hello, hello. Welcome in. Bucks stops here. Have a good night. How was the Orlando record day? Well, the show I think you're talking about, it was cool. It was very cool. It got pretty busy. Got to meet a couple people, which was crazy. I was not expecting that. I'm still not prepared for somebody to like recognize me. And hey, I watch you on YouTube. It's like, really? Oh yeah, I do YouTube. It was an honor. It was just very humbling, but it was a good show. It was cool. I picked up. I was looking for the cheapest way to bulk up the Beatles stuff, so I was on the hunt for CDs. I didn't buy a record. I did not buy a record at the record show, but it was a record and CD show, so I did buy CDs. It was a lot of fun, and they have another one coming up. I don't know if I'm going to go to it or not, but I think those are cool. They do them like quarterly. They also do an international one as well. Apparently, that's the biggest. They said it was 8,000 square feet, but to me, it didn't look that big. I mean, the show looked big, but that room did not look like 8,000 square feet to me. Maybe there was just so much in there that it was that way, but yeah. Spider Boy Games. Is there a quality difference between newer releases of records versus their original pressings? That's a good question. It very much there can be. There's a lot going into play. If you buy a modern pressed record, it's usually sourced from what's called a DSD file, a direct stream digital, which is a super high quality, high resolution digital audio file. Whereas a vintage pressing of perhaps the same record may be pressed off of analog tape, which was not pressed off a tape directly, but okay, come on, let's get it back in gear here. the analog tape was the master audio format that was used to create a lacquer master, and that lacquer master was used to create pressing materials for the record. So the source material can change. Some people say that they prefer vintage records to newer ones. For me personally, most of the time, my tolerance levels for things are a lot more broad than other people. I'm not like, well, I will never listen to this, or I never like that. But I can tell you an example of where I have noticed a difference, and that's with Patsy Cline records. My favorite Patsy Cline records are the Owen Bradley, that was her producer, recorded original Decca records from the early 60s and late 50s. And they sound warm, they sound rich. Decca records of that era were high quality. They were like thick RCA Victors. They were like they were good. They were like just a very rigid and thick, hardy pressing on quality vinyl. And I really enjoy the mixing of that, not just the physical pressing, but I love the mixing of it as well. And the mastering, obviously, coming from tape and lacquers made from the tape. Half-inch tape, 15 IPS half-inch tapes that were just like, which are all sadly gone. I'm not going to go on that diatribe. All that stuff burned down. More music disappeared than you would like to know in the 2008 Universal fire, but I digress. Anyway, compare those to Decca obviously became MCA. MCA became UME. And so you have a situation now where there were later pressings of some of those albums, and some of those pressings occurred from digital source tapes or lower quality analog tapes, and you can hear a difference, and the physical pressing is different. If you take like a 70s era MCA record of the same album that was a Decca from 10 years prior, the original Decca of hers, it's a flimsy, cheapo record that MCA had compared to the thick, original quality Decca stock. And, in terms of sound quality, probably fairly similar. But if you look at a new release, you may experience a lower quality if it's based on a digital file. And you may say, well, you love digital, you love CD so much, how can it be lower? When it comes to an analog media like vinyl, sourcing from an analog source has a different sound signature than a digital source. It may or may not be bad, it may or may not be good, but it can sound different. And maybe the warmth is, and as I've described it on other shows, a distortion that you're hearing, but that distortion may be the sound you'd like. If I'm confusing you, it's because this is all extremely up for debate, and it's all subjective, and everybody will hear something different. Everybody has their own opinion, but that's some of my experiences. In the case of Patsy Cline too, there was some modern releases in the EU of like her showcase album, which used different recordings altogether. The source material was lower quality and doesn't sound as good. Not to say all EU stuff of hers was bad, because one of the viewers actually sent me one of my favorite Patsy Cline records. It was the EU Patsy Cline Greatest Hits album. It was a DMM record. If you don't know DMM, look that up. They're fantastic. And that sounds great. Then you've got the situation with the Patsy Cline Greatest Hits album, where I forget what company it was. about 5-6 years ago, did a half-speed master of the Greatest Hits 1967 album with the original master tapes, and sells these very expensive 2-disc sets of the original single disc 1967 Greatest Hits album for an astronomical price. Or they sell a 33 RPM version for a slightly less astronomical price. The problem there is, turns out that they had a dub as a master tape when they thought they had, and I have this on good authority. I know somebody closely associated with this. They had a album dub, which was a mix down. It was I think it was a 1/4-inch mix down album reel that they were calling and using as the master. And that turns out to be a generation loss and not as good as the CD and the 2016 vinyl Greatest Hits that was available at Walmart, the cheapo $28 Walmart Patsy Cline Greatest Hits, and the 2003 SACD and associated regular CD version happened to be superior because they come from a much better mastering in 2003 that was done for the SACD, which I don't have. I don't have an SACD, but I'm trying to stay away from SACD as well. It's cool, but it's a rabbit hole I'm trying to avoid. So things like that. That's kind of where you get in the obsessive zone and you learn about this stuff, but it's so fascinating. I love learning about that stuff. Oh, there's still people logged. Wow, actually gained a couple people to the stream. Usually if I go on a diatribe like that, be like, okay, I'm good. Thanks, I got tired, which is why I came here. Was any record over? Oh yeah, there's always overpriced record, but it's relative, right? It may be worth it, but if I see a record that's $150, I'm out. I mean, I have paid close to 100 for a record, but that was because I was looking for something very specific, and I was probably not in my right mind. I probably shouldn't have spent that much. That's really cool, Kyle, about the guitar. Really cool. PSR changers are fine for 78s. But boy, watching those 78s fall down the spindle is scary. Same thing with my... oh, no, my SLB5 is only 2-speed, so I couldn't do 78s on it. Yeah, I didn't have a BSR. I had the one step up. I can never think of what it was called. It was not a competitor because it was made by the same people, but it was a different brand. They did an offshoot of their own company. It was a non-BSR BSR essentially, but it was a 4-speed turntable. But watching 78s drop on that thing was terrifying. Like, how are they not cracking? School type record players like Newcomb. I have and I have not used it in a while, but I have. It's in storage right now, but it is a audio. What is that thing? Audiotronics. 80s era. I need to get that thing out and do some more content with that. That's a cool player. Great, and that's a 4-speed as well. I can do 16 and 2/3 on there, so I can do my Seebergs. I should do more of my Seebergs. I haven't shown my Seebergs in a long time. Seebergs, you can do obviously 78s, 33s, 45s. I have a couple of those school players. I love it. Yeah, Caliphone would be. I want a Caliphone, but I was happy to find the Audiotronics. Yeah, a lot of people don't like the BSRs. They say they're, too harsh. But, I think they're fine. That's cool. Yeah, a lot of people do have mono dedicated cartridges. I probably ought to do that. I love record changes. I have a dual Gerard Magnavox and BSR. I also have 2 GE Wildcat. Oh, cool. My dad had a Wildcat. The buck stops here. I love Patsy Cline. Well, you have stumbled upon the right channel because I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a Patsy Cline nut. I've got a pretty cool collection. I haven't done much on it lately because I drove my audience crazy with the Patsy Cline stuff about a year ago. I've tried really hard to avoid it, but I've got some very cool pieces. Audio-Technica VMN 70SB. Oh, yeah, I forgot to say what cartridge I'm running on my SLBD22. It's a discontinued AT320 P-mount, and It looks identical to the one and only P mount that Audio-Technica is still making, but it's one step removed from that. And I've got a body matched black, I think it's a fan steel cartridge or stylus on there. And I replaced that because I thought that was the problem. But I love P mounts. P mounts are great. I've got some cool ones. I've got a Technics P mount. Actually, it's right here, I think. Yeah, this is a P33. You don't find these very often laying around, or information about them either. But I love that because the top of it is clear. It's like this clear blue. And then you can see the generator in there. Pretty small generator. P mount just plugs right in. I have another P mount somewhere. Where is that? That was up here. I always end up showing these cartridges during these lives, so if you've seen it a million times. My SLBD22 came with this Empire. What is this? ID50, missing the stylus. It's got a very cool kind of clear orange plastic stylus housing. Love the color-coded back panel. I would love to get the stylus on this, third-party, aftermarket, even though it's a vintage cartridge. Look at the size of that generator. Huge generator. Doable, like $22, $24. So I'll definitely be doing a show on that. I've heard those are good cartridges. Not in terms of cartridge reviews and things. Trying to do some more Sumiko stuff. I was talking to the rep at Grado, and they don't have anything they want to show for the not foreseeable future, but at this moment in time. So I don't know if we're going to have anything for a while. XM Virus has Walking After Midnight on 78. How bad do you want it? That's a Grail record of mine. Wow. Any Patsy Cline on 78, dude. That's a very, very cool record. That's a Grail record for me. Oh, man. And I'm a little jealous of that. That's really, really cool. I've got some cool things, but I don't have any 78s. And like I said earlier, if I found a Patsy Cline Coral 78, that's my Grail of Grail records. But even Patsy Cline Decca 78s would be amazing. I love Golden records. Yeah, we're just showing some. I love Golden records. I had this weird, hey, Greg, how's it going? I had this weird thing happen. I was going through some of these kids' records earlier on the little Philips Portable, and I had in fact, this should be still right here because I put all of those right over here. Yeah, this is it. Check this out. This is so weird. It's this weird kind of era where they had these storybook records that were in these cheap envelopes. They're kind of like book and tapes, or book and records, but there was no book. It was just this. And it's a weird form factor because it's like elongated on one side. But I was going through some of these I have, and I came across this Golden one here. Read and Hear. This is one of the most interesting records that I have. The record, or the book is great because check this out. The artwork. I love vintage children's books. Artwork. Look at that. Is that not just so cool? I love the artwork. That style of art is just crazy. But the record is really interesting. It's a Golden record. This is after they stopped actually making them golden. But look at this. I want you to look at this and see if you see anything odd off the bat. See anything that's weird there? Whoa, somebody sent a $5 super chat. Okay, hold on. Got to stop what I'm doing. Record-ology equals my fave. Super Prince. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. That's incredible. Humbling. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. That's crazy. Thank you so very, very much. Wow. Oh, man. Okay, so it's this. Look at this weird cutout here. This weird groove. Like the hub is thick, like we've talked about before. 45s have thick hubs so they can be stacked and keep the thin playing surface from touching others that are stacked. But it has a thinner inset ring here, which is very strange. Anyway, look at this record. Oh, there is some wear there. Okay, never mind. I just negated my own. I was going to say this visually looked to me, I was in a darker room. Looked okay, but it sounds so bad. That doesn't look that bad. Maybe those are scratches, and maybe it is worse than I thought. Anyway, I could not hear it. I could almost not even hear it. This thing was just worn out. Now looking at it with the lights, I can see it is worn out. But back then, I was like, it doesn't seem that worn out to me. In the darkly lit room, it seemed okay. Thank you so much for a super chat. That is crazy, you guys. That is awesome. So yeah, would love to get my hands on those remaining 4 Beatles CDs or records, but either way would be fine. Let me get caught up on comments here. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This has been a good group, a good chat. And again, if you're watching the replay, join us for one of the lives if you can. That would be great. Greg, welcome in. Seems like all of them were done by the Sandpipers. Yes, led by none other than Mitch Miller. Yes, absolutely. I've got a ton of these golden records with the Sandpipers. Were they acoustic? I didn't know that. I didn't know they were. I know they were 78. We talked about that, but I didn't know they were acoustic. They were acoustic 45 players for kids. Yeah, and they had a lot of those tin ones and stuff. So cool. 78 that looks like a 45. Yep. Official Mickey Mouse Club records. Golden 78s had a hard life. I think this vinyl light, those yellow ones, was so soft that they just got ground to pieces. I have a couple that are strangely perfect still, but that one with like the faded kind of frosted look in the play surface is pretty common. Vulcan Records has made 78s that are disc copies of few cylinder records. Oh, that's neat. That's really cool. How was the Atlanta Record Fair? Were the records overpriced? Some were, but not all of them. Sorry if I'm repeating comments, guys, by the way. The comment thing bounces around. It's hard for me to keep track. The Mickey Mouse Club record was the first in-house label for Disney prior to them launching the Disneyland label. Yes, all that stuff is cool. Eventually, Buena Vista. Music Junkie, welcome in. Are you interested in audiophile pressings? So yes and no. If I have them, I'm very thankful for them. Would I bypass a non-audiophile pressing for an audiophile pressing? Probably not in most cases. Now, I just went through the diatribe about the Patsy Cline stuff. So there would be specific cases maybe of an album that I would love to find that was an audiophile grade, a half-speed master. By the way, there was a vendor at that record show that had half-speed masters. You can see in my video that I did a couple weeks back where I show it's like a box, and we flipped through that box too. So in certain cases, yeah, I think that would be really cool. But I'm not a discerning record collector. I would pick up stuff that other people would pass up. Always have been, always will be. It's a show. This is all about doing this on a budget. This channel is not an audiophile channel, which is when I did that show a couple weeks back about the audiophile upgrades. I told the guy, I'm like, you do realize that we not endorse because we actually don't do endorsements, but we don't mind when people have cheap record players, suitcase players, wooden all-in-ones, or higher end units, Technics, whatever you want. It's okay. It's fine. We're welcoming to everybody's record player here. And it's definitely not an audiophile channel by any means. And he was cool with it because he's like, well, these are upgrades that the average person can use. I'm like, okay, well, that's the way it's going to be integrated, and and it made for very interesting content, I thought. Hopefully you guys did too. So it just depends. I have GERPX carts for 78. It's cool. Will I purchase the Beatles box sets? They're a little pricey for me, so I probably won't just go buy one for myself. But if I received one as a birthday present or a Christmas present from a family member, I would not be upset about it. That would be awesome. If I just just go buy anything you want right now, yeah, I'd probably buy the stereo box set. Absolutely. I wish I could use my Columbia portable from '54 with the GE cart. thing I did was replace the motor turning grommets. Super Princess, I have another question. What do you think in your collection is your top 5 best sounding vinyl? Gosh, that's a good question. Best sounding vinyl. Man, I've got so many records that sound just so good. Best sound. Now you're talking about from like a technical standpoint, like it's a very quality pressing that just stands out because the pressing is so good. Gosh, I don't even, there's like a threshold of quality that a lot of my records meet, and especially newer records, but not exclusively. So like I said earlier, I prefer some vintage ones. I love the sound of like the main Patsy Cline albums that were released by Decca. The sound of those is just phenomenal. One of my favorites is the Vinyl Me Please Patsy Cline reissue of Showcase with the original artwork, tricolor pressing. It was remastered by one of the top remastering engineers. It was plated at Welcome to 1979 in Nashville. It was, I forget the pressing plant, but it was one of the better ones. And it's a beautiful presentation, a fantastic sounding record. Mono. It was pressed from a mono album reel that they found in Canada, which is strange because all of the album masters were thought to be gone. So the fact they even found that was interesting. Good luck trying to find behind the scenes on that stuff. They just not communicated with the public because the public knowledge is that all of the Patsy Cline masters were destroyed in the Universal fire, except for the stereo album reel that I was talking about earlier that was on loan in Nashville when the fire happened, which was right behind actually it was not behind, it was adjacent to one of the buildings in the Clock Tower Square in Universal Studios. This idiot was, it was caused by, let me phrase that. It was an accidental fire. Let's just say that. Unfortunately, a lot of music was lost to all time because of it. But it was a mistake. So yeah, in terms of best sounding records, there's so many that just sound. That one comes to mind. I really like my Star Wars 1977 Star Wars soundtrack original pressing. That sounds fantastic. The new Incense and Peppermints thing I got at Record Store Day sounds fantastic. The Parlophone Beatles albums that I recently received are incredibly high quality sounding. They sounded like some of the best Beatles audio I've ever heard in my life. Those are some that come to mind, but there's a lot. The Buck Stops Here is in Africa. That's cool. That's cool. York's Public Library. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Those 2 episodes are among my favorite vinyl community posts. And thank you for about the Kurt Knox thing. Yeah, those are fun. He does have an amazing collection. You have to have good headphones. I'd recommend Pioneer headphones, Audio-Technica, and Beats headphones. I have all 3. So these headphones, I'm sort of a headphone connoisseur. And these One Audio, whatever the heck it's called, these guys are making fantastic stuff. These are the M80s open backs. Again, they've got the 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch headphone jacks. They're very well balanced. They've got good drivers, and these sound great. These are on par with some of the best Panasonics I've ever owned. And even with that, I just don't like, and I've heard with a lot of headphones, I just don't like the sound of vinyl on headphones as much. I got Pioneer 4 and 8-track tape decks. I almost received as a gift a 4-track compatible 8-track player. Didn't go down that route. I find my planars work nice with LPs. That's very cool. Beatles 6. Something new. I love 8-tracks and repairing them. Now I know that I'll send you all my 8-tracks that need repairing because it's not my favorite thing. You ever bend the cantilever of your stylus while cleaning it? All the time. By the way, my every side of a record cleaning that I do for styluses is this Hudson Hi-Fi brand mascara brush anti-static liquid cleaner. Thing's great. You just take it out and it's wet. It's got anti-static cleaning fluid, a couple of back to front swipes, and it comes off great. I also I've got a Crosley carbon fiber stylus brush that works good. I used to really like the gels that you would dab in them, but sometimes they would leave a residue, which isn't great. And plus they gunk up so fast. But I haven't snapped one off, or I've bent them, but not by cleaning them. I've bent them by handling them. Yeah, it's a terrible feeling. It's terrible, isn't it? Such a waste. Such a waste. Next year I'll get a 1898 Edison home phonograph. That stuff is so cool. But the mold, not something I want to bring into my asthma world. I am an asthmatic. At least I'm upgrading from an elliptical nude to a microlinear. See, I've never heard a microlinear. The best thing I've ever heard was an elliptical nude. I have never heard a microlinear. I've never heard a Shibata. So maybe if I do someday, if I get into some moving coil stuff, I do have preamps that'll support that. You know, the LP3 actually has a built-in preamp with a moving coil setting. It's crazy. I use studio monitors. Yeah, these are. Yeah, dude, Super Prince. Send me an email. Great ability of Audio Technica VM95 series. And that's the thing. I like cartridges that have easily affordable upgrades. Absolutely. Super Prince. Thank you so much for that super chat, man. That's great. I needed a new Mac anyway, so maybe Mini. That's cool. Maybe you just need to peel the banana plug. See what you did there? Love it. I run both powered baby studio monitors and basic horn load floor stands. Wow, dude, that sounds crazy. I'm very much a baby in this whole thing still, you guys. Hi, Record-ology. Where do you get 45s? You know, Greg, the 45s I like. So it depends. A lot of antique stores. When I go to a record store and I see there's like aisles of unlabeled 45s, to me it's overwhelming. So I don't like to flip 45s that often. One of the best record shops in Colorado, they actually had a 45 section that was labeled just like the 12-inch records. Made it easy to find. But, you know, when it's a pile of kids' records, I kind of like going through those. But it depends. So a lot of antique stores, some record shops. Yeah. Kyle says, I found a vintage Zenith amp for guitars. Don't really know Zenith made amps. Bought it for $100. It's a tube amp. That's cool. These I got 45 from Discogs, particularly love double A-sided Jamaican dancehall reggae. That's cool. 2 songs by 2 vocalists on the same. That's cool, dude. Never mind having a day off today. I feel ripped off if there's an instrumental on side B. I love that when there's a version. Yeah, that's fun. Alternates and stuff. Recently, I bought a recent reissue of Patsy Cline's 1967 Greatest Hits album on vinyl and thought of you. Well, I'm glad you did. So if you got the 2016 version, which is what I have as well, that's the better version. So ironically, the cheap 2016 reissue uses a much better master than the super expensive half-speed master one that was done a few years prior. That's a great starting point. It's a greatest hits album because it really does cover the gamut. How about the Wisconsin Chair Factory and Paramount Records? I'm not sure. More than $10 for a used Jamaican 45, though. Some of those prices. Is that like a thing? Jamaican 45s? I got to look into that. However, I own 400 reel-to-reels, 56 mini disc, 4 8-track, 600 cassettes. Holy cow. Yeah, I actually have a pretty healthy collection of reel-to-reel. I need to use more of that. I was listening to reel-to-reel this week on my beautiful Akai GX4000D from 1984 with the glass ferrite heads. Beautiful tape deck. nearly perfect. It has a little bit of a short on one of the RCA inputs, but it's very fixable. And you can manipulate the positioning of the cable to make it record fine, but a little solder and it will be fine. That's a lot of cassettes. 56 DATs. Dang, dude, that's crazy. There was a second UMG storage facility that only just came to light called Iron Mountain Studios. A lot of the UMG label masters were there during the 20s. So George, Iron Mountain, and I'm telling you what I know and open to what I don't know. So correct me. But Iron Mountain has an exclusive contract with Sony, which now encompasses a lot of things like Columbia and things of that nature. So RCA Victor and all that stuff is in the Iron Mountain, Pennsylvania facility, which is a legit Iron Mountain. By the way, if you work in an office and you see Iron Mountain paper shredding people and the lock shredders and stuff, same people, Iron Mountain. It's an old iron ore mine, and that's where you've heard of the big movie art vaults deep underneath Kansas, where like the Wizard of Oz is stored and everything. Well, like all the Glenn Miller RCAs and things, all the metal parts are stored in Iron Mountain. I know somebody who gets to go down there, and no, he won't send me pictures, unfortunately. But my understanding was that UMG didn't have that much stuff down there. Maybe they do. If they do, that's great. And I've heard this back and forth. Like I've heard with the 2008 fire, at first they were like, oh, it's horrible. We lost everything. And then I heard, oh, wait, never mind. It's actually not as bad as we thought. And naturally it gets downplayed by certain parties involved. But then I heard recently, over the last year and a half, yeah, it really was as bad as we thought originally. It really was as bad as originally thought, etc. So I keep seeing it go back and forth. But the source that I have that is close to the subject told me that his knowledge is that everything was destroyed of Patsy Cline's except for that 67 album reel. And now, apparently, a Canadian mono of Showcase album reel as well. But all the half-inch masters are long gone. I hope that's not true, but that's my understanding. All the Nirvana masters and stuff. I want to find out. I mean, if you can send me stuff, I want to read it. Holy cow, I'm way behind on comments. All right, guys, we are creeping up on 2 hours, which is a long time. So I want to finish this up before we get there, and I want to get through the comments before that. So rapid fire on comments. Holy cow, I'm really far behind. I'm so sorry, you guys. I did not realize how bad off. Okay. We're going to go rapid speed on comments. Music Junkie, I just hit 5,400 CDs, but a friend of mine has over 30,000. Wow. I have passed the 100 mark for albums owned on vinyl. Congratulations. That's a big milestone. Have you ever tried DDI codec? It's designed for cassette noise reduction. I've not even heard of that. You have to tell me more. That's cool. Jody Smith, I bought a 70s reissue Sun album. Charlie Rich that had some of his rockabilly on it and thought it was just a bad pressing, but found out that every one of those was bad pressing. That's very interesting and unfortunate. Hi, Record-ology. Where do you get your 45s? Greg, we were just talking about that. So probably after you put this comment in, mostly antique stores and some record shops. Now I got 2160 records catalog. You must be working in the background. After I do my 45s, I got to do my 78s. Acer BT. I have a second-hand Audio-Technica PL50. My main component setup. It has a moving magnet card, so it sounds decent. That sounds awesome. WHHS, Entertainment Lorraine, do you say? Are you talking amongst yourselves? That's good. Can anyone give tips on how a blind user like me might properly line everything up and set the stylus force on more advanced players? That's a great question, Acer. That's a great question. Let me think on that. Speaking of Patsy Cline greatest hits, there is a 2 LP 45 pressing from Analog Productions. That's what I was alluding to, Eric. So that Analog Productions release, the 45s that they did, the 2 12-inch 45s and the one 12-inch 33 version, both used an inferior album dub as its master source. So it's actually not as high quality as it would seem. And ironically, the cheapo 2016 greatest hits album that was sold everywhere. I bought mine at Second and Charles, was thought to be the inferior copy. The 2016 reissue uses the same master as the SACD from 2003 and features much better audio and a better master, and less generation loss as well. XM Virus, how do I send it to you? If somebody's looking to send us stuff to review, especially if you got Beatles stuff, our address is in our About tab. So go to our YouTube page and look for our address there, and that will send it right to us. And thank you, by the way. David says, oh, David with a super chat. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. Do you see Buy Old Records? The user goes to thrift stores and antique stores and flips through a whole stack of records. I have seen him, I think. I think I have. Yes, I think I have. I've also seen the channel where they review records and do laundry. Timothy Gurgley, that's a great illustrator. Using LP3 turntable. What do you recommend for an upgrade? If you like a manual experience, the natural upgrade would be an LP120 series. If you like automatics, maybe go Vintage Technics automatic. Maybe a linear. It's a great turntable you got though, and it's got that moving coil compatible preamp. So don't upgrade unnecessarily. It's the only thing I don't like about the LP3, and the reason why I sold mine is because you can't easily adjust the speed. It doesn't have a strobe, and I wish it did. David says that was a polystyrene record. Okay, so that's why it sounded bad. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. 8 RPM audio magazine thing. I've never come across an 8 RPM record. I know they exist. Thanks for answering that. I saw you wrote at Target and wondered if I should get that or look for a used one. The ones that are new are the 2019 Masters, and they sound fantastic. They make acoustic 45 players. You're lucky to get 10 good plays out of a styrene record. See, Tim, I don't know, because like I've got some styrene, even LPs, and I think that if you play with a light tracking turntable, they can sound fine for a long time. I think where you run into trouble is like we were talking about earlier with the styrene records with heavier pickups being used, like the vintage stuff, the kids stuff would just tear through there. But I think they can sound good if they're tracked lightly. George says those golden records were pressed by Bestway, who also pressed some of the Bell records. Very cool. Which version of Mystery Magical Tour would you purchase? I don't even know what versions there are, Eric. That's how much of a newbie I am. I thought by Magical Mystery there was only one version. I thought it was. Now, if you're talking records, I don't know. I wouldn't be that particular. But there's not like a US and UK version of that, right? Wasn't Rubber Soul the last album that had two versions, the US and the UK version? In terms of the pressing, though, I wouldn't be that particular yet. Make sure your Beatles records say EMI, not Universal on them. High Record-ology get 45. Talked about that. Good stuff at month. Friend already has thank you. Would it be possible to be descriptive about locations of controls, the design, and other things in reviews? It would help me understand how the player being reviewed works, since I'm a blind viewer. Acer, so I've actually been contacted by a lot of blind people and visually impaired people that have told me that my videos are descriptive and have really helped them, which was amazing. It's an amazing compliment because I didn't realize that I was being that descriptive. But yes, I will definitely try to keep doing that because I know it's valuable for a lot of folks. But yes, absolutely. Larry, welcome in, Larry. Thank you for moderating, Larry. I'm very behind on comments, and appreciate you being in here. Half-speed mastered originals sound best to me, and Japanese imports. That's awesome. You listened to Beatles on the shortwave today, Greg. That's really cool. Taxon 660. Old radios, you have a lot of stuff, don't you? Japanese vinyl is quiet, no pops. Larry, is that because they use a better mixture, like it's a more virgin vinyl? Movie Film Masters. A few months ago, my man. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, they're pretty cool headphones. I think they sound great. I think they sound really good. A few months ago, my music teacher, found me a 10-inch 33 and a third record. Yeah, I've got a collection of 10-inch 33s. They're great. Would have an easy time cleaning records and the equipment to play them on since I can't see them good at doing many things by feel. That's great. Well, they say that if you lose one sense, that your other sense become heightened. So that's really, really cool. Oh, I like to sit down for a good hour and look at 45s. Maybe if I tried doing that, I would enjoy it as well. Record conventions have huge selections, but a lot of vinyl is overpriced. Your videos, it has helped me back into record collecting. I'm glad to hear it. Betty43, thank you so much. Hey, Greg, is it your birthday today? Happy birthday if it is. No. XM virus. Are you serious, dude? You're going to send me that? Stop. For real? Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you. That is a grail record of mine. That is Patsy Cline 78. Oh my gosh. That would be incredible. That will be I've never framed a record. That will probably be the first time I do. That is incredible, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's crazy. Thank you, my friend. So nice of you. Old radios. Motown was mastered loud to sound good on cheap turntables. Larry says German versions sound best. Oh, yeah. And I've been learning about that on that other channel that I always say it wrong. Even in the video where he kind of gave me some info about that bootleg, I said it wrong. Andrew, Parallelogram Auctions. I've learned so much from him. And yeah, he keeps talking about the German versions of things being really good. There's an LP version in the US and there was an EP version in the UK. That's what it was. And I did know this about the Magical Mystery. I would probably want the album version, I would think. Because there was a thing where people in the US weren't about the EPs and all this stuff. It was the only 2-disc EP set. That's right. I got an LP60X at $10 at a garage sale, and it was mint and sounds great. Dude, that's a great, Penny 43, that's great. That's awesome. I thought I got a good deal for mine for $40 and with a scratched lid. But it sounds like you got a better deal. That's great. George says there were 2 different Magical Mystery Tour releases, US Capitol and the UK Parlophone doubles. So there it is, the EP versus the Capitol album version. Huh. Okay, well, that's what I want then. Now I know. Oh, 41-meter band. I see. Sorry, George. Sorry, Greg. XM virus. Sorry, I'm having a hard time saying the username. Thank you again. I'm just humbled and very thankful, very grateful. That means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. Got a German Magical Mystery Tour in the 80s. Sounds great. Have the album version. Okay, guys, we went over 2 hours. This has been a blast. I could do this forever, but I need to take the dog out. I need to take my little puppy for a potty break. So I'm going to bid you a fond adieu. And I've learned a lot, as I always do. And I appreciate you guys. And you guys are fantastic. I'm very humbled to learn from you. And that's what it's always been about on this channel. It's a little different. Who let the dog out? Who? I'm letting the dog out. Me. So yeah. And just sincere. A lot of YouTubers will say thank you, but I mean it so sincerely. So thank you. You guys are great. Have a great night. Take care of one another. Thank you to everybody on a different level for just being here. And your generosity is incredibly appreciated. Thank you for the super chats. And everybody have a blessed night. And we'll be back with hopefully an interesting show for you tomorrow. Thanks to a very, very kind gift. Again, just incredibly blessed lately. And I'm thankful for it. So happy record hunting. See you next time.